Ever get that strange gut feeling like someone's always watching you, even when you're doing something as normal as taking out the trash? What if I told you that your neighbor, who just happens to be out there watering the same exact spot 3 times a day, isn't just into gardening? Because sometimes it's not just paranoia. Sometimes the walls really do have ears. And the hedges? Eyes. You step outside and bam, there they are. Not once. Not twice. But again, watering the same little patch of grass like it's holding state secrets. At first, it feels like a coincidence. Maybe even a little funny. But then it keeps happening. Same time, same spot, same stare. Suddenly, your cozy little home doesn't feel so private anymore. It starts to feel observed, watched, and you catch yourself whispering in your own kitchen just in case someone might be listening through the vents or the walls. If that's ever happened to you, don't brush it off. That instinct? It's there for a reason. It might just be trying to protect you. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 clear signs that your neighbor isn't just being friendly, they're actually keeping tabs on you. And this goes way beyond harmless curiosity. These are warning signs that, if ignored, can slowly chip away at your peace, your comfort, even your sense of safety. So stick around, because by the end of this, you'll know how to spot the danger before it pulls up in your driveway and pretends it's just dropping off the mail. And hey, if you believe your privacy is something worth protecting, you're in the right place. Now let's dive into the first major red flag. So we left off talking about that creeping feeling when what once seemed like coincidence starts to feel more like surveillance. Let's dig into the first major red flag. Sign number 1. They coincidentally appear every single time you leave your house. Have you ever stepped outside, maybe to grab the mail or take out the trash, and suddenly, there they are? That one neighbor. Again, and again, and again. At first, it might feel like a weird coincidence. But over time, your gut starts whispering, this isn't random, this isn't normal. And guess what? That whisper might be your instincts doing their job, trying to protect you before your mind has time to catch up. Now, we're not talking about the occasional wave while both of you happen to be outside on a sunny Saturday. That's just neighborhood life. What we're talking about is something much more calculated. Something that starts to feel choreographed, like they're magnetically drawn to your movements. What used to be casual becomes intentional. Picture this. I once knew a guy named David. He was a retired firefighter, quiet, kind, routine-driven. Every evening after dinner, he'd go for a simple walk around the block. Same route, same pace. It was his way of unwinding. At first, he didn't think much of it when a neighbor 3 houses down just happened to be outside, fiddling with his car every time David walked by. Could have been nothing, right? But then, it escalated. No matter when David went out early evening, late at night, even during a light drizzle, there that neighbor was, pretending to reorganize the garage, sweeping a driveway that was already spotless, standing against his car, eyes glued to his phone but clearly aware. And slowly, that mild discomfort David once brushed off grew into something much deeper. A heavy feeling. Like his every move wasn't just seen, it was anticipated. There's actually a name for this: hypervigilant observation. It's when someone tracks your routine so closely, so obsessively, they can practically predict your next step before you even take it. And here's the danger: patterns like that don't happen by accident. They're created with focus, with intent, sometimes even with obsession. A neighbor who tracks you this closely isn't just curious, They're slowly convincing themselves that your life is somehow a part of their world. The Stoics, long before the days of doorbell cams or neighborhood Facebook groups, understood this quiet form of threat. Marcus Aurelius wrote that disturbance does not come from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. In other words, your first responsibility isn't to panic, it's to observe, assess, and respond with clarity. Strength isn't in fear, it's in strategy. So, what do you do when coincidence turns into a pattern you can no longer ignore? First, document everything. Calmly. Log it. Date, time, what happened, and why it felt off. Don't rely on memory. Rely on evidence. Then bring in technology. A simple camera setup can do more than you think. Reviewing footage can reveal repeated behavior that you otherwise might have missed, like someone circling your home a few minutes after you leave. This isn't just about peace of mind. If things ever escalate, this becomes crucial for legal protection. Next, flip the script. Break the pattern. Leave at different times. Park on the other side of the street. Switch up your routines. If they're truly tracking you, you'll notice they'll adjust, and fast. That's when you'll know for sure it's not in your head. This isn't paranoia, it's vigilance. It's understanding that security isn't just deadbolts and alarms, it's awareness. It's noticing when someone's trying to quietly redraw the boundaries of your personal space. David eventually saw the truth. And he didn't explode or start a fight. He stayed calm, just like the Stoics taught. He changed his patterns, kept detailed notes, and when the neighbor eventually trespassed onto his lawn late at night, David didn't panic. He acted. He handed over the evidence, involved the authorities, and reclaimed his peace without ever losing his composure. The reality is this: if you feel like you're being watched over and over again, you probably are. The subconscious often senses danger long before we consciously do, and ignoring that instinct, that's not strength. That's self-betrayal. True strength is listening to that inner voice, protecting your peace, and acting with steady, quiet confidence. Your home, your mind, your space, it's all worth defending. So far, we've seen how obsessive behavior in the physical world can reveal a hidden threat. But what if the invasion isn't through footsteps or stairs, but through signals and screens? Sign. #2. Their technology is focused on you. This next sign is far more subtle and more sinister. Because unlike someone constantly peeking over the fence, this one doesn't make a sound. There's no gravel crunching underfoot, no shadow lingering outside your window. Instead, it slips in quietly through invisible waves and silent devices. In today's hyper-connected world, someone doesn't need binoculars or a basement full of monitors to invade your privacy. A camera lens the size of a pencil tip, a bug hidden inside a smart device, a Wi-Fi router quietly intercepting your signals. That's all it takes to turn your private moments into someone else's entertainment. And the worst part? You might not even notice until it's too late. Maybe you've seen it. A neighbor's security camera that just happens to have a perfect view of your front door. Or worse, your living room windows. Your children playing outside. That's not poor planning. That's not lazy placement. That's intentional. And while it may not screen danger in the beginning, it creeps in slowly. You start sleeping less soundly, waking up tense for no reason. You feel irritable, unsettled, unsure. Why? You catch yourself hesitating before opening the blinds. You start wondering, am I just being paranoid? But deep down, your instincts already know. Your gut is picking up what you're polite, rational mind is trying to dismiss. Let's be clear. This is not your imagination. Technology has made spying easier than ever. A neighbor doesn't have to be a hacker to turn your everyday life into a live feed. A phone set to record. A strange Wi-Fi signal that only appears when you're home. Your smart speakers or cameras acting glitchy at odd times. These aren't random tech hiccups, they're signs. Cracks forming in the walls of your sanctuary. And every time you ignore them, those cracks spread. Living under that kind of silent pressure takes a toll. Over time, you stop doing the little things that make life feel free. You stop singing in the kitchen. You second-guess walking barefoot onto your porch. You hold back tears. You stifle laughter. You shrink yourself down to fit the boundaries of someone else's twisted sense of control. You're not living. You're performing for an audience you never invited and never agreed to entertain. But here's where ancient wisdom becomes your shield. The Stoics understood this form of violation. Marcus Aurelius taught that what ruins us isn't what happens to us, but how we respond to it. Your neighbor's gadgets may be beyond your control, but your peace, your response, that's still yours. So don't panic. Act calmly, but thoroughly. Start by assessing your home like a detective. Walk your property as if you've never seen it before. Look up, are there strange objects on light poles, birdhouses, or branches that suddenly seem out of place? Notice unfamiliar Wi-Fi networks that appear only when you're home. A sudden drop in battery life. Smart devices activating on their own. These aren't harmless glitches. They could be the first signs that something or someone is trying to breach your digital walls. Now it's time to take your own tech seriously. Lock down your digital life. Use encrypted networks. Install your own security cameras pointed outward, not inward. Not to spy, but to defend. Think of it like fortifying a castle. You're not being paranoid. You're being prepared. But most of all, remember, the real battle isn't just about avoiding surveillance. It's about refusing to live in fear. In the last section, we explored how modern technology can be used to silently watch, record, and manipulate your daily life. But sometimes the invasion doesn't come through a device, it comes through words. Through the details someone shouldn't know, but somehow does. Sign number 3. They know private details they shouldn't. Here's a chilling truth. Today, it only takes a few casually overheard conversations to piece together the blueprint of your private life. Just 5, that's all it takes. For someone to know more about you than they ever should. In a world where information is power, the neighbor who always happens to be nearby and seems a little too interested in what you're saying, they're not just curious. They're collecting data, building a profile, quietly connecting the dots of your personal world. It starts out subtly. A casual mention of your sister's new job in Phoenix. You pause because you've only ever talked about that inside your own home. Or maybe they congratulate you on that expensive pair of sneakers you ordered online before you've even opened the box. At first, it feels like coincidence. But then the pattern becomes undeniable. There's a big difference between a neighbor complimenting your haircut and one who somehow knows you got it at exactly 2:30 p.m. last Tuesday and paid with your Visa. That's not small talk. That's surveillance. And behind that behavior, there's something even more dangerous. These types of neighbors often begin to feel a strange sense of entitlement, like just because they live nearby, they have the right to peek into your life. They'll tell themselves it's just concern. just curiosity. But let's be clear. It's not. It's control disguised as interest. By gathering little bits of personal data, your schedule, your routines, your relationships, they're slowly building influence. And even though they haven't done anything wrong on the surface, what they're really doing is manipulating from the shadows. And the effects go deeper than discomfort. When you start second-guessing every conversation, when you begin filtering your words out of fear of what's being overheard, you lose something precious. Your freedom to speak, to express, to be yourself. It's like living in a house where the walls feel thin, but not just because of sound, because of exposure. But here's where Stoic wisdom offers powerful clarity. You may not control what others do, but you absolutely control how you respond. Marcus Aurelius taught that external forces have no true power unless you hand it to them. If someone's probing into your privacy, don't react with anger or fear. Respond with strategy. Start with a simple test. Say something fictional near a window or in passing conversation. Mention a fake trip or a made-up appointment. If that neighbor brings it up later, you'll know. Now that you've confirmed your suspicion, it's time to reinforce your boundaries. Avoid sharing sensitive information near open windows. Use sound barriers like white noise machines to block casual eavesdropping. And be extremely mindful of what you post online. Even small details like the gym you go to or the time you leave for work can be exploited by someone with the wrong intentions. This isn't paranoia. This is awareness. It's self-respect. Because your thoughts, your time, your life, they belong to you. The Stoics believe that safeguarding your peace isn't just an act of defense, it's an act of wisdom. And when someone tries to sneak into the private corners of your life, they're not just crossing boundaries, they're violating trust. And once that trust is broken, what do you do next? Let's move to the fourth sign. Because now we're shifting from subtle signals to behaviors that are more confrontational and potentially dangerous. We just talked about how subtle details and overheard facts can reveal someone is watching far more closely than they should. But what happens when the signs aren't just emotional or digital? What happens when the evidence becomes physical? Sign number 4. There's physical evidence around your property. This is the point where it stops being a gut feeling. It's no longer something you can brush off as overthinking. Now it's something you can see, something you can touch, something real. Because when someone's curiosity turns into action, when they start interacting with the physical space around your home, that's no longer passive observation. That's intrusion. Take the story of Richard. He lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, peaceful, ordinary. One of his habits, almost subconscious, was to tilt his welcome mat ever so slightly every time he stepped inside. It wasn't something he even thought about. It was just his little routine. But one day, after being away for the weekend, he came home to find the mat placed perfectly straight, not off to the side, not blown by wind, but perfectly aligned, as if someone had carefully adjusted it. At first, he brushed it off. Maybe it was nothing, but the next day, something else felt wrong. A potted plant near his front door, which he always turned to face the sunlight, was now facing the street. Odd. Still, maybe coincidence? Then came the mailbox ajar, though no mail had been delivered that day. Individually, these things might seem minor, but together they formed a pattern. A silent message. Someone's been here. And not just passing by, they were testing boundaries, slipping past what was visible, trying to see how much they could touch without being noticed. This is what makes physical evidence so deeply unsettling. It violates more than your space. It shakes your psychological core. Your home, your sanctuary, starts to feel penetrable, vulnerable, like someone has walked straight into your peace and left quiet fingerprints behind. These signs aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they're just subtle shifts that only you would notice. A package delivered, but now placed at an unusual angle. A window blind pulled halfway when you remember leaving it fully open. A parcel that looks like it's been opened, then hastily taped shut. These aren't coincidences. They're warnings, and if you ignore them, the behavior will likely grow bolder. So, what do? Security professionals recommend using low-tech tells that can help you detect interference. Place a thin strip of clear tape across the inside edge of your doorframe, or a small folded piece of paper between the door and the jamb. When you return, if it's disturbed, you'll know something's not right. And if you do find something, don't panic. Document it. Take clear, date-stamped photos. Keep a private log of what you noticed, when, and how it differed from your routine. This isn't being paranoid. This is being prepared. The emotional weight of realizing someone may be tampering with your space is enormous. You start to question more than just one neighbor. You begin to question the safety of your entire environment. Every unfamiliar sound, every misplaced object, starts to feel like a possible breach. From a Stoic perspective, there's a critical truth to hold on to. You may not be able to stop every external act, but what you can control is how you respond. As Epictetus wisely taught, it's not the events themselves that disturb us, it's our interpretations of them. Recognize the violation, but don't spiral. Respond with composure, intelligence, and strength. Secure your home. Keep records. And above all, protect your mind. Because when physical signs appear, they're more than just strange occurrences. They're sirens. Loud, undeniable warnings that a boundary has already been crossed. And that brings us to the final sign, the most dangerous one of all, when observation becomes direct confrontation. Let's talk about that next. In the last section, we explored how physical evidence around your home can signal that someone's attention has gone far beyond innocent curiosity. But when that attention escalates, when the behavior becomes persistent, intrusive, and personal, you're no longer dealing with a quiet observer. You're facing obsession. Sign #5. Their behavior escalates into obsession. This is the final and most serious warning sign. It's when your neighbor's interest in you isn't just inappropriate, it's dangerous. Studies show that in over 70% of stalking cases, the victim actually knew the stalker. It wasn't a stranger. It was someone familiar. Someone they had spoken to, waved to, maybe even trusted. And more often than not, they ignored the early signs, because those signs didn't seem threatening at the time. Just friendly concern. Just harmless attention. But obsession almost never starts as a dramatic act. It creeps in slowly. It disguises itself as normal, as polite, until one day, what used to make you mildly uncomfortable becomes a source of genuine fear. Think back. Have there been small moments that unsettled you? A neighbor who lingers too long in conversation. A comment that feels just a little too personal. A strange sense that someone knows more than they should. Even when you haven't said a word. How many times have you ignored that feeling? How often have you told yourself, don't be dramatic, or maybe I'm overthinking this? We all do it. We talk ourselves out of our instincts because we don't want to seem rude or paranoid. But here's the truth. Those instincts don't exist to be polite. They exist to keep you safe. Take Karen's story, for example. She lived in a quiet cul-de-sac, peaceful neighborhood. Nothing ever seemed off until it did. Her neighbor always waved, maybe a bit too enthusiastically. Then he started asking about her job, about her plans. She figured he was just chatty. Until one day, after a private phone call behind closed doors about a weekend trip, she found a handwritten note under her doormat. "Have a great trip." No one else knew. At first, she brushed it off. Coincidence, maybe. But then it escalated. The neighbor was later seen walking through her backyard while she was away. When confronted, he claimed he was just checking on the property. Karen's experience isn't rare. In fact, it follows a common and chilling pattern. Small boundary violations grow over time, and the person watching you no longer sees you as a neighbor or even as a person. You become an object of focus, something to control, something to monitor. They create a fantasy around you, one where they are the protector, the confidant, the one who knows you best, even if you never invited that role. And when they start isolating you, acting like they understand you better than anyone else, or positioning themselves as your only real ally, it's not care, it's control. So what do you do? From a Stoic perspective, your reaction must be firm, clear, and level-headed. As Marcus Aurelius said, it's not external events that define us, but how we respond to them. Start documenting every detail, every strange encounter, every note, every comment that feels off. Record dates, times, and patterns. Build a timeline, not to feed your fear, but to protect yourself. Because if the behavior continues, you may need to take legal action. And when that time comes, you don't want to be scrambling for evidence, restraining orders, cease and desist letters. Anti-stalking laws, they exist for a reason. Use them. And more importantly, don't wait until the situation spirals out of control. Involve authorities early. Trust your instincts. They were never meant to be ignored. Now, as we close out this journey, let's pull all of this together. The signs, the responses, and the final piece of wisdom that will empower you to protect your mind, your home, and your life. Let's finish strong. In the last segment, we uncovered the dangerous shift when curiosity turns into obsession, and how important it is to respond with clarity, not fear. But what do you do once you recognize that someone has crossed that invisible line? The answer starts with this: don't isolate. Because isolation is exactly what the predator wants. It's their greatest tool. The more alone you feel, the more vulnerable you become. But connection? That's your defense. Reach out to people you trust, friends, family, co-workers. Not to gossip, not to stir panic, but to protect your safety, your peace of mind, and your right to live without constant fear. Here's the scary part. Obsession rarely shows up like a thunderstorm. It doesn't announce itself with alarms. It arrives in silence, wrapped in fake politeness, disguised as concern, hidden behind coincidence. That's why acting early is so important. Real courage isn't about having zero fear. It's about choosing to take action in spite of the fear. To stand your ground, draw clear boundaries, and say, I will not be watched. I will not be manipulated. I will not be afraid. Your instincts aren't overreactions, they are ancient survival tools, sharpened through generations. Trust them. Because when obsession enters your life, silence won't save you, but action will. And if you've made it to this point, That says something powerful about you. You're not ignoring the signs. You're not brushing off your intuition. You're part of the rare few who can look past the mask of fake friendliness and see the truth. Now you know the 5 major signs. You understand the patterns. And most importantly, you know how to protect your sanctuary before someone turns it into their own private reality show. Awareness isn't fear, it's wisdom. It's locking your doors before the wolf ever even thinks about knocking. Because you deserve more than survival. You deserve to live with your curtains open and peace in your heart, not tiptoeing every time the mailbox rattles or a shadow passes your window. So trust your gut. Protect your space. And most of all, don't go back to silence. And if this message made you pause, if it made you see things more clearly, then don't stop here. Keep going. There's another video waiting, one the algorithm didn't choose by chance. Click it. It's not just the next step, it's your next layer of protection. Because your future self and your future peace of mind will thank you.